She walked into the bank with nothing but confidence and a paycheck she'd earned with years of service. Minutes later, she was in handcuffs, accused of trying to cash a fake check. The customers stared. The tellers whispered. And the officers didn't bother to ask questions before taking her down. But what they didn't know would soon turn their world upside down. Because this suspect wasn't just another customer, she was someone trained to uncover injustice itself. So, how did the protectors become the ones exposed? But first, please make sure to subscribe the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. Before that day, Jordan Williams lived a life defined by quiet discipline and unshakable purpose. As a field agent for the FBI, she was used to operating behind the scenes, methodical, precise, and professional. Every move she made came from years of training, years of proving she was more than what people assumed when they first saw her skin. Off-duty, Jordan blended into the rhythm of her community. She volunteered at youth centers, mentored young girls who dreamed of wearing the same badge she carried, and never missed Sunday dinners with her mother. Her life was steady, predictable, anchored by a belief that justice wasn't just her job, it was her calling. But on that morning, she wasn't on a mission. She wasn't in uniform. She was just another woman running errands after a long week, carrying a check from a recent government contract. The kind of ordinary task she'd done countless times before. The bank smelled faintly of coffee and disinfectant. Sunlight cut across polished counters. For a moment, everything felt routine, until she noticed the teller's smile tighten, the casual tone shift, the uneasy glance exchanged between employees. A quiet tension began to hum beneath the surface. Jordan didn't know it yet, but the same system she'd spent her career defending was about to turn on her. And in a matter of minutes, the woman who enforced the law would find herself treated as its suspect. The moment Jordan handed over the check, the air in the bank changed. The teller's polite smile flickered into something uneasy, a mix of doubt and suspicion. She typed something into the computer, paused, then looked up with that practiced, apologetic tone that never truly meant sorry. "Just a moment, ma'am," she murmured before disappearing into the back office. Jordan waited, glancing at the digital clock above the counter. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The quiet hum of the bank felt heavier now, every eye seeming to linger on her a little too long. A man in line shifted uncomfortably. 2 tellers whispered near the printer. She felt that old, familiar heat rise in her chest, the kind that came from being seen, but not truly seen. Finally, the teller returned, this time with a manager. He smiled, but his tone carried the same edge. "There seems to be an issue verifying your check," he said, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. An issue. The word hit her like static. Jordan calmly offered her ID, even her federal credentials, but the man barely looked at them. He nodded vaguely, retreating again behind glass doors. Moments later, she caught the sight of a phone pressed to his ear. And then the sirens. Outside, red and blue lights splashed against the bank's reflective doors. Heads turned. Whispers rippled. Jordan's heart sank, not because she was afraid of the police, but because she knew exactly what it looked like from the outside. A black woman, alone, being accused of something she didn't do. 2 officers entered, their presence heavy, commanding. They scanned the room, eyes locking on her, as if she'd already been convicted. One approached, hand hovering near his belt. The other spoke sharply, asking her to step away from the counter. She tried to stay calm, explaining that the check was legitimate, that she worked in federal law enforcement. But her words seemed invisible, swallowed by their assumptions. The taller officer reached for her arm, the other began asking questions she'd answered twice already. When she instinctively reached into her purse to retrieve her ID, both officers reacted. One hand gripped her wrist, another reached for the cuffs. Gasps filled the room as her bag hit the floor. The cold metal snapped shut around her wrists before she could even process the humiliation. She could feel the sting, not just from the handcuffs, but from the stares, the murmurs, the judgment. To the people watching, she was just another suspect. To the bank staff, just another problem they'd handled. As she was escorted outside, the cameras from bystanders' phones followed her every move. Someone muttered, "Another one caught trying to scam the bank." Another voice added, "She should have known better." The words burned. Jordan's mind raced between anger and disbelief. How quickly it all unraveled. How easily a lifetime of discipline and honor could be erased by a single assumption. She sat in the back of the police car, wrists still bound, the world watching through tinted glass. The same system she'd sworn to uphold was now branding her a criminal. And as the officers began checking her ID, really checking it this time, something shifted in their faces. Confusion. Realization. Then, the first flicker of fear. Because the woman they just arrested wasn't a suspect at all. She was one of them, and she was about to remind them exactly what justice looked like. The car door slammed shut, sealing Jordan inside, a cage of disbelief and humiliation. Her wrists ached where the cuffs bit into her skin. She stared out the window as the officers stood by their cruiser, laughing softly, shaking their heads. They didn't see her humanity. They only saw their idea of her. She'd spent years working alongside men like them, training them, briefing them, trusting them. And now, here she was, reduced to a headline waiting to happen. One officer finally opened the door, avoiding her eyes as he pulled out her wallet to check her identification. His casual expression faltered the moment he saw the gold badge glinting in the sunlight. His eyes widened. He blinked twice, as if he couldn't believe what he was holding. The other officer leaned in. The silence was suffocating. FBI, he muttered under his breath, disbelief dripping from a word. Jordan said nothing. She didn't need to. Her badge spoke louder than any explanation ever could. The realization spread across their faces like wildfire. Panic, shame, then a desperate scramble to make sense of what they'd done. The handcuffs were removed in trembling haste, followed by stammered apologies that meant nothing. But it was too late. The cameras were still recording. The bystanders were still watching. The narrative had already changed, because now the people who had arrested an innocent woman weren't just wrong. They were exposed. Jordan stood tall, rubbing her wrists where the marks still burned. The world around her seemed to go quiet, every sound muffled under the weight of what had just happened. She could see the officers' eyes darting to the onlookers, the phones, the truth they couldn't hide from. For the first time, they weren't in control. Jordan didn't yell, didn't threaten. She simply met their gaze, calm, steady, unshaken. The kind of look that says you'll remember this moment for the rest of your life. And in that silence, one thought cut through the chaos like a blade. Justice wasn't blind. It was watching, and this time it was recording. In the days that followed, the story spread like wildfire. The footage, once whispered about in the bank, was now shared across millions of screens. People couldn't look away from the image of an FBI agent, a black woman in cuffs, surrounded by officers who never thought to question their own assumptions. The department launched an internal investigation. Statements were made, policies reviewed, apologies issued, but the damage ran deeper than paperwork could reach. For Jordan, the bruises on her wrists faded, but the deeper scars, the quiet disbelief, the feeling of being stripped of dignity in seconds, remained. She had spent her life defending a system that, in one ordinary afternoon, turned against her without hesitation. She didn't want revenge. She wanted reflection, change, accountability, because she knew her story was not unique. It was the story of countless others who never had the power, the platform, or the badge to make the world listen. So Jordan chose to speak out, not as an agent, but as a woman who had lived the truth behind the headlines. She began mentoring with renewed purpose, reminding young people that justice doesn't begin in a courtroom or a precinct. It begins in the way we see each other. And for those who watched the viral video, the shock lingered long after the news cycle moved on. It forced a question few wanted to ask out loud. If even someone sworn to uphold the law can be treated this way, what hope is there for those without a badge? That's the truth that makes this story impossible to forget. It's not just about one woman, one mistake, or one day. It's about a pattern that has stolen dignity, safety, and life itself from too many. Because racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds like protocol. And until that changes, justice will keep recording.